Greetings, fellow Gothamites. Tiki here. Oh my god. Oh my god, Dragon. It's been a while. It's been a minute. I'm so sorry. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Start over, folks. I'm so sorry. We've been on hiatus. Oh, that's so embarrassing. Let me start over. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Holy Dana character development, Batman. Tiki here. Oh, Jesus.
And Bluedragonfive.
Okay. Oh God, Dragon, we really should have rehearsed this. I thought I had it, but I didn't.
This is what I get for assuming
I
on the
thought I had it,
penultimate
but I
episode.
didn't. I thought I had it, but I didn't. I
The
was
penultimate
so
episode
wrong.
of our series, and I would like to think at this point you knew what you were doing.
All right, Dragon, I swear to God, I'm going back into the fucking email. We're gonna do this right. Folks, just consider this a blooper. Oh dear God. Okay. What am I missing, Dragon? What am I missing? Oh dear God. This is awful.
You know, you say the whole point of the show.
Okay, so oh man, okay. Whoo. Oh God, it's been a minute. I'm so sorry, folks. This is bad.
You haven't even gone on your trip yet, and this is what we're dealing with.
No, you're right. Okay. Holy character development for Dana, Batman. Tiki here, and oh my God. Duh. Okay. One more time from the top, people. Holy character development for Dana, Batman. Tiki here, and I have been watching through each and every episode of Batcave. Oh my God! Oh! Okay, folks, this is just I want the people watching to just like enjoy this for what it is, which is just Tiki making a complete and total ass out of himself. Dragon, one more time from the top. Let's see if I can actually do this without fucking up. Holy Dana character development, Batman. Tiki here, and I have been watching through each and every episode of Batman Beyond for the first time. Dragon, tell them why we're here.
Well, you see, folks, long ago, I made a vow to educate Tiki in the ways of Batman the Animated Series, serving as his spirit guide to Gotham in a way, but that was the past, and we must now enter the Batman's future.
And tonight we are tackling the 20-issue comic book arc, 10,000 Clowns. Dragon, you want to give a little bit of context behind this?
Yeah, sure. So basically, in circa, let's say, 2011, they started finally doing Batman Beyond comics. Officially for DC, not just the tie-in stuff they had back when Batman Beyond was airing. And Adam Beechin, the guy we're going to talk about, he wrote the initial issue, the initial 3 arcs of it. And basically, by this is 2012, is one time we get 10,000 Clowns. This was the big story he was building to, and a story that was so good and so dialed into Batman Beyond, specifically the animated show. It seemed right to kind of cover it because it does kind of feel like it's kind of a big, great adventure that does kind of pay some stuff off and facilitate some stuff that let's just say goes right in between where we last left Batman Beyond animation to where we cap things off in our very last episode. So if we're going to cover it anytime, we should cover it now.
All right, and Dragon, I really like this thing a lot. I would dare to call it maybe among my favorite pieces of Batman Beyond media. I think they really hit it out of the park with this one. Obviously, the Dana character development that I struggled so hard to emphasize, a really good element of it. I think, ironically, Dana getting character development seems like a character for her. I don't know. I don't think so. I think Dana has been such a big part of the show since the get-go, but not really. Her role kind of diminished as the show went on, so it was nice to see kind of things sort of like wheel back around to her. But just generally speaking, Dragon, I thought this was a blast. I mean, My one caveat with it is it's not even really fair to the arc. It's just kind of like the nature of comics in general is that, the Mad Stan storyline, um the the descendant of Joe Chill. Those were both kind of interesting, but ultimately, I kind of feel like I could have, by and large, skipped them, except for like the way that we transition from one storyline into the next part of this. But then you have like some of the first parts in the initial issues. So yeah, that was the one time where I was a little bit struggling, just because, as you know, I was kind of messaging you like, "Hey, do I really need to read this? Am I on the right track here?" Once it got into the actual, like, I believe it's 10 parts total, right? The 10,000 Clowns storyline of it all. Once it got into that, I was hooked. I mean, I think that this is just very, very well done. The pacing is great. I feel like we got a little bit of an end game flavor as far as like everyone is here. We got we got Tim Drake, we've got Catwoman, we've got Dragon.
I'm sorry?
Who do we have that you want to make a little joke about that came back?
Oh, you mean? Oh, I'm sorry,
I'm
Tiki. I
setting you
thought.
up, Dragon. I'm setting you up.
Well, Tiki, there's this character. I'm sure you remember him. DG, as in Tiki. I don't want you to confuse it, okay? DG's in this story, and DG stands for Dick Grayson.
Yeah. All right.
Dick Grayson's in this story, Tiki. Can you believe it?
So yeah, I really like that. I will say, Dragon, holy shit, Doug Tan is one hell of an antagonist, my guy. Like, this is just like, as far as like being like a one-off villain specifically for like a comic arc. I mean, I really felt like the pathological evil in this guy, kind of like the whole like, like he was born a monster and there's not really anything that they could have done to change it. And I don't know, man. There's something about Doug's story in this kind of chilled me to the bone a little bit. So, and then also that ending is so goddamn satisfying, Dragon. The Bruce Wayne stuff at the end, it is like, it's like candy for me. It's awesome. So yeah, overall, I was quite impressed with this thing, man. I really the artwork I would not say is like one for one with the show. I think sometimes the models are maybe a little janky, but I still think it has an interesting art style in its own right. I'm sure you can talk about that in the background. So yeah, overall, Dragon. Once I got into like like I said, once I got into the back half of this with the actual like Night of 10,000 Clowns, which I think would have been a cool title for this, by the way, Night of 10,000 Clowns. I was just hooked. And then like every issue, like 17, 18, 19, as we were like revving up towards the finale, I was like, oh, I cannot stop. This is awesome stuff. So yeah, good stuff all around. Let's see. Little Blue says, well, I came in at a weird time. Yes, and I do appreciate the Robin reference there. All right. So Dragon, I'm assuming there's I mean, you already gave a little bit of context, but any other background you want to get into?
Yes.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, so this was written by Adam Beechin. Now, Adam Beechin, a great writer. He, as far as his ties to the DC animated universe, he did the JLU tie-in comics. Again, kind of like I always loved the animated tie-in comics because, again, they had like a lot of talent that was kind of adjacent to the actual shows, and it felt very much like you could actually basically they were like unanimated episodes for the most part. And so Adam Beechin, I want to say that was kind of his main kind of like. That was kind of the main thing he had going on here. Beyond that, though, he's had a lot of other great kind of DC credits to his name, and he wrote a few episodes of Teen Titans, the animated show, the good Teen Titans. Specifically, actually, he wrote one of my favorite episodes. He wrote Haunted from season 3 of Teen Titans, the big Slade ghost episode.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's done episodes from pretty much all the other permutations of Batman. Did The Batman, did the Batman Brave and the Bold, and Beware the Batman. And honestly, some of my favorites from those shows too. Coincidentally enough, did the Zur-En-Arrh episode of Brave and the Bold, and did the game episode of Beware the Batman, where basically it's like Batman Batman, Katana, Commissioner Gordon. We had kind of a fill-in for Amanda Waller, but I think it was like a city councilwoman. Basically, they didn't have Amanda Waller, but they just kind of had like a lady who was kind of like a she was a judge or something, and Tobias Whale. Anyway, point being, have all these people basically in kind of like an equivalent to a Riddler death trap, but it was they tried not doing the obvious ones like Joker, Riddler, etc. So they kind of had like the odds and ends villains like Humpty Dumpty kind of put this thing together. It was like, anyway, point being, good episodes. So the artist that worked on this was the great Norm Breyfogle. And Norm Breyfogle, or Breyfogle, however you like to pronounce it, Adam Beechin kind of pronounces it Breyfogle, and I'm kind of inclined to kind of err on that side because he worked with him. So this was a big deal. Norm Breyfogle was like a legendary Batman artist, and this was like his big returns at the character. He'd done other stuff since, but as far as his credits with Batman go, he created the ventriloquist.
Oh, nice, nice.
He basically, I mean, he didn't create Tim
I can
Drake.
see that in his art style, just generally speaking. He's got that kind of like twisted look going on a little bit.
So he basically, now he didn't create Tim Drake, but he did essentially, when Tim Drake put on the Robin costume, at the very least, when he put on the like his own version of the Robin costume, that was Breyfogle.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, pretty much like from the '80s to the early 2000s, this was kind of like Breyfogle's era. You know, like he specifically the '90s. I always remember his '90s stuff. That's like the ventriloquist era right there. You know, that's a sweet spot. Anyway, to kind of cliff notes it here, like I said earlier. So DC, after many years, everyone's saying, "Man, we love Batman Beyond. Why won't they give us more Batman Beyond?" Come the new 52, where they announce very foolhardily, like, "Hey, we're going to do 52 brand new comic titles." They realize we don't have enough material for 52 comics. We're going to finally do a Batman Beyond book that people are going to love, and they did, and it was great. And the foray into this was, getting to that point. They kind of tested the waters with Adam Beechin doing Hush Beyond, which basically was, again, they're kind of breaking slowly but surely they're kind of breaking the bylaws of the show, which is we're not just going to do classic Batman villains, the Beyond version of classic Batman villains. You remember?
Oh yeah, I remember that statement for sure.
So the comics,
That was like essentially the closest thing the series had to a Bible, if I remember correctly.
Exactly. They just had like that was the grounding principle. Everything else is just like on the go. Like with season one, they were writing the Bible as they went. Like there was no Bible ahead of time.
Right.
Anyway, so basically the Hush Beyond was kind of like bending the rules on that a little. Okay, we had the Batman villains, but they weren't really like active villains, with the exception of a returning Hush who had a Beyond twist to him, so he wasn't like full on Hush. So that was the thing. We were kind of testing the waters and clearly not full on the show, but very much in reverence and kind of like trying to be as in continuity to the show as he could be, while also blending the Batman comics history into it. So that was kind of Beechin's kind of imperative. So he did Hush Beyond, which did really well, and then he basically got his own. Basically, after that, with the same artist, he did Industrial Revolution, which essentially was a continuation. Like, okay, so if we gave this guy a regular Bat book, it would be this, and that was again testing the waters. And then ultimately, this led to Batman Beyond Unlimited. Now, Batman Beyond Unlimited. This is where I have to clarify things for you with the whole how you read this, Tiki. So, the way Batman Beyond Unlimited worked is that it was split into three. You got a book, you got a comic, probably it was either bi-weekly or something. Like each issue of a comic eventually was released, and the way they did it was initially they were released digitally. Okay, so these comics were released digitally, and that was the big hook. And then eventually they would be put out in print. So you could buy the comics and eventually buy the collected books and the trade paperbacks and everything. And this is a long-winded way of saying, Tiki, that's why it's in like 20 chapters. It's really a 13 to 14 issue story, but it's like they kind of chopped it up so much because this was like in a comic, it was like cut into three because you had the Batman story, you had the Justice League story, and you had the Superman Beyond story.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
So basically, it's like digitally you could read it very frequently, and they wanted you to sign up for apps and stuff and whatnot to like to get the online subscription service so you could read the comics. And if you didn't want to do that, just wait like an extra week or so, and then the comic would be released once they had like 3 chapters from each of those 3 stories. Mm-hmm. Which again, basically it's like we cut down like 20 pages to 10 pages, and it would just kind of go on from there, which is why it's like
Yeah, the issues did seem a little short. I did notice that.
and that's why, and that brings me
Yeah.
to, so with that was a challenge. That was the big challenge in writing this, because they did not know that was going to be the format initially. That was kind of the thing they kind of learned while in the midst of doing the story, because they had two challenges. Challenge one, basically with each Batman Beyond story, pretty much each year building to 2012, like they had, you have to have a new starting point, because it's a continuing continuity. It's like all three of these arcs is like a continuing story, but per how we're experiencing it, Tiki, here, you don't quite have to read those. Admittedly, you're gonna be a little lost on Catwoman, but
Yeah, I picked up on it pretty. Just it is Selena Kyle, right? That's all
no,
I need to know.
well, no,
No,
it's
it's
not.
not.
It's not Selena. That's what I
Okay,
mean.
that
So
I was confused on. I was like, okay, I don't know if this is Selena Kyle or not. I like the idea of Catwoman like having tech that splits her up. I was totally okay with that. I just wasn't sure who exactly it was.
so that's what I'm saying. So admittedly, that's like there's a little bit of character introduction stuff for some of our like returning or extra kind of like reinvented characters, but for the most part, that's the thing. This base basically, one sec.
Take your time. Hope you're not too sick from that con you attended.
That's not funny.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Just an observation.
Anyway,
All right.
the point being, they had to keep reintroducing the characters.
Uh-huh.
Where it's like reintroducing the status quo per Bat book.
Sure.
Where it's like, okay, Hush Beyond, this is like a foray in the Batman, then Industrial Revolution. Here's like, okay, we're kind of reinvigorating the story while keeping it going, and then 10,000 Clowns. So from the beginning, 10,000 Clowns was the big plan story. It was like the big one they wanted to tell, but again, it was like they were kind of telling the other story arcs in getting to this one, but they're kind of rebranded. Like, okay, new Batman series, starting fresh, 10,000 Clowns.
Hmm.
And it all kind of came about with the whole like, what if Dana Tan had a brother, as a way of for us to develop her further, which was always like the big, because they were very actively aware, like, yeah, it was such a mistake to not develop Dana the way we did in Batman Beyond. So that was like the big impetus behind the story.
I truly feel like by the time Batman Beyond the show ends, she's kind of just mostly in the background for the most part.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and I already mentioned the whole double kind of runtime of the book thing, which was like, that was the big thing to leap over, where they had a bunch of act breaks kind of forced in. There were 10 pages, which, looking back on it, Beecham, like, again, had they known, they would have cut out. They would have separated the Mad Stan and the a lot of the stuff you're talking about there. They would have separated that had they known it was going to be chopped up as much as it was, because they do feel it went on a little too long because of that. And with each act break, they have to recap what happened in the previous chapter. If you notice that in the writing,
A little bit. That didn't bother me too much. I just kind of took it as, the nature of the beast when it comes to comics.
and there was one last comics thing too. There was in the release of this, and the reason I had to show it to you the way I did, Tiki, is that unfortunately, when this thing was released and collected in like one book, they left out the epilogue. They left out the very end of it.
You mean like the Bruce Wayne stuff?
Yeah, the thing at
How
the
the
very
fuck
end.
did they leave that out? That's like that's pivotal to the whole story. God damn.
That's true.
That's
The
crazy.
big Dana thing at the end, like that whole Dana section of story. They
That would
DC had,
essentially be like the Sixth Sense wrapping up with like Haley Joel Osment and his mother having a heart to heart. It's like, yeah, Bruce Willis, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. He's fine.
yeah, pretty much. Anyway, yeah, that's the thing. So Adam Beecham wasn't happy about it. A lot of people were like, "Wait a minute, we bought this whole thing, and it's still not the." And it's literally just one issue, because then it transitions into the next story. But you couldn't just like let the epilogue be there, so you can buy the book and get all the story there. It just ends with the big dramatic climax thing, and then
I mean, if anything, I feel like the end of the book is like a good cliffhanger incentive to be like, okay, let me read more of this comic.
yeah.
So yeah, that's crazy.
Okay. Anyway, All that said, folks, we're just going to dive into this. We're not going to go through every individual issue, be it 14 or 20, depending on how you want to classify it. But we're just going to talk about overall kind of our major story points in this book, which again we highly recommend from the sounds of it. 10,000 Clowns, very good.
A number of means to get a hold of it. If you
Yeah.
know your stuff when it comes to comics. Anyways, I was tempted to put a link in the description, but I was like, nah, better not for our sake. Better please.
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I want to get into, Dragon, is just like I said, the character of Doug Tan. I think is the dude just chilled me to the bone, Dragon. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this is one hell of a memorable Batman villain for me.
Yeah. So and this is again like in the background of some of the other books, like Doug was kind of like Dane's brothers getting out of prison. Like they kind of said that, but they didn't say like what the big deal about it was. So this is the first time we're really meeting Doug, and we're really seeing that. Here's the best thing about Doug Tan to me, and I'm sure you would agree with this because I remember you and I kind of really liking this when we talked about it beforehand, going all the way back to Rats.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Retroactively, now when you look back on that episode, we see why Mr. Tan is as hard on Terry as he is.
Totally.
Because now we've added, he has a son who's very much everything he fears Terry might be in regards to his daughter. Kind of like someone who could be on the track to going to prison because of being kind of being a juvenile delinquent of sorts.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. I think that like the slow build to him really like basically going from like kind of a jerk, he's a jerk to Terry, and we don't like people that are jerks to Terry, so we don't like this guy very much.
He is. Here's the twisted thing. He is being kind of overprotective of Dana. Like, here's the thing.
Right.
He doesn't. The wonderful thing about Doug too is that initially when he's introduced, there's like an air. There's something off there, but he is just being like, "Hey, my sister, my sister broke up with you. Let's, I don't think you should come back here again." He's standing firm. Again, he's been out of it for a while, so maybe he doesn't have the right to do that. But he's not doing anything quite wrong yet. But still,
this has got to have the biggest body count out of any Batman villain.
Oh, absolutely. I
mean, holy shit! Like this guy basically does a 9/11.
Well, over 91 bombings.
Right.
No, we say that in the book. It's like 91 bombings and counting.
So yeah, just the domestic terrorism element of it. What's really chilling to me about it is that I feel like his level of evil basically like transcends the traditional idea of what a Batman villain is. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, I love there's a lot of great deconstruction going on with Doug, and that Doug is. We see. Let me put it to you this way: with Doug, one, we kind of have a bit of a, again, kind of like the Mr. Tan thing I was talking about here, where we kind of see a path that Terry, if you look at Batman and Joker as kind of like the other side of the coin with each other, the duality, the opposites, the whole thing is that Doug is kind of like Terry had he not gotten the slap on the wrist that he got and went to juvie, if he went to prison and got just if his parents were not there to support him, kind of the thing, where the parents are around for both of these characters, unlike Batman. But if just things went a different way and he didn't have the love and support that he had, and things did not go as severely there. And obviously Terry went the way of the Batman, he went the way of the Joker. So there's kind of some interesting parallels to draw there with those characters already. And given the fact that these two characters kind of like almost like a kind of a Daredevil Kingpin kind of thing, they don't meet each other until the very end of the story.
Very true. Yeah. Although technically they do meet.
Oh, you're right. No, you're right. They don't meet.
But as far as like the Batman of it all goes, it is very true to form. Yeah,
like they are so close, given the Dana connection between them. They're very close in that regard, and yet in costume they do not. They represent these symbols and these icons. They don't meet each other until the end. And Doug himself, as the Joker King, he is the whole deconstruction of like Joker's ideology, which the scary thing about the Joker is that everyone has a different read on him. And this guy has like the worst, most sadistic read on the Joker.
Now, I gotta think that this was somewhat inspired by Dark Knight, which, I mean, again, what Joker wasn't inspired by the Dark Knight post 2008? But this one really seems to lean into the domestic terrorism side of things. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So that's definitely an interesting parallel. Just kind of and just this guy's like whole worldview, how it's very startling. Just how like from a very young age he was just fascinated with the Joker, and there was pretty much like nothing that the parents could do. It was just kind of like one of those things that was just like ingrained in him. Kind of part of the reason I hate social media nowadays. Wow, look at Tiki being all topical. Anyways, I digress.
But that's the thing, though, is like when we learn more about Doug's backstory, like right towards the end there, when he's in the hospital, he's basically doing the villain monologue, basically explaining to his family why he turned out the way he is. Which, long story short, is like, he felt he gravitated towards the Joker. Society kind of told him that was wrong, and he kind of bumped up against that. And I think fundamentally, and what we kind of get into is that he feels, at the very least, he feels
Dare
now
I
whether
say
or not.
there's almost an air of like fucking Trump fanboys in his mentality?
Well, now we're kind of, now we're kind
No,
of
I'm
dipping
just
into the.
saying it's a little bit like just kind of like that blind sort of like I will follow this dude no matter what. He can do no wrong, and other people that don't like him just don't understand, man. I don't know.
The point being, blind allegiances are not wise.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing, is the fact that whether it's perceived or not, his family, the way it feels like he doesn't feel his mental illness was recognized by his family, and he was rejected because of that. That's kind of the vibe that I got from Doug Tan. Is
Which
that
is low key a very relatable thing for a lot of people with mental health issues. So it's and you know what? I feel like it's also kind of like a scary kind of cautionary tale of how like if you don't treat people like this, if you don't give them the time of day, although I don't want to make it seem like all mentally disabled people are going to like go off like this. No, obviously not. Obviously I'm not
it's
saying
like I don't doubt that the Tans loved him and tried doing what they could for him, but I do think it was a difficult position because he's kind of in universe, he's kind of obsessing over like the most notorious serial killer in Gotham. Very much like he's fanboying over a serial killer, and clearly there's something not right there, and they're thinking it's like a
he's
phase or a
essentially a
fad.
true crime girly.
A true crime girly?
Yes, a true crime girly.
Okay.
One of those females who just like obsesses over Ted Bundy and shit.
Oh right. Well, I didn't know we called them girlies, but sure.
Yes, Drake, that is kind of a terminology, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, but yeah. So essentially, something like that, where again, it's kind of and this somewhat plays into like the thing that Dini kind of got into, only a lot more severely. Is that Dini always kind of played up like the celebrity status of the villains in Gotham in the animated series. This is kind of like an interesting, kind of darker take on that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the point being, like again, he just this led to kind of like him feeling very much like he doubled down on kind of the Joker's philosophy and deconstructed it in such a way that it kind of like put him above all the other Jokers and kind of made him into kind of basically the Manson of the Jokers. This guy was like the cult leader status of like being able to kind of like basically rally all the clowns, which of course led to the 10,000 clouds premise that we have.
Uh-huh.
So I guess just to kind of thread the needle a little bit here and get back to Doug here and there. So the prelude of this whole thing is like we have like an influx of Jokers from all the other cities, which is some great world building, like mentioning Star City and I think Keystone City and all the other DC cities. And the idea is that each city has like a cell of Jokers in them. Which again, is basically it's like gang colors and stuff. Where essentially, like these Jokers have like flowers on their lapels, and these Jokers, they do their makeup a little differently, and so it's like the little idiosyncratic kind of things there. And we have like our whammo blammo action sequence, and Batman. Our first look at this Batman is in the Norm Brayfogle style, is Batman cracking up, just looking at these ridiculous looking Jokers.
Okay, can I just say the panel of Batman like doing the whole like, why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? That fucking got me, dude. I thought that was like so on brand.
Oh yeah.
Very Spider-Man. I'm surprised Spider-Man doesn't do that move more.
So this is what I'm saying. This opening was a really good reintroduction, and also had like the underlining forebodingness about it here. Like the moral of the story is like don't underestimate your opponent. Where Terry's kind of making light of all these Jokers and just
And
seeing,
of
oh
course,
well,
throughout all of Batman Beyond, I mean, even in the podcast, we've kind of said that the Jokers are, sort of just kind of like they're interesting thugs, but they really are just kind of muscle. You know what I mean? And
mm-hmm.
so it's really interesting that we get this now, where it's just very much weaponizing that.
I mean, Doug felt like he was an upgrade of. There's nothing against the original here, but it feels like Doug was kind of like building off of what the most menacing Joker that we saw was Terminal, the Michael Rosenbaum Joker from the episode where Max is introduced.
Mm-hmm.
Where he was very much he was kind of a scary Joker, in high school.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, so this feels kind of like like what if that guy kind of took the next step and it wasn't just like causing mischief, like just like targeting Maxine Gibson. It's like well, this guy was like targeting the whole city.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see. So Bruce Wayne he visits Barbara, and he basically he knows that all these clans converging at the same time is this so soon is not a coincidence, but he's frustrated that he has to wait. And now the really great thing looking back on the story is that Bruce Wayne has a ticking clock in this story. So all of Bruce Wayne's actions, when you look at this story, you have to feed in the context that he might be doing these nice things or these smart things because he's trying to close the book on things before his time runs out because he knows his health is degrading in this story.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite things about Bruce Wayne in this story is just how like absolutely fucking relentlessly protective he is over the Tan family.
Oh yeah, one of the
I
great
mean, if there's a
moments.
great Conroy moment in this, it would absolutely just be him like refusing to leave them. You know what I mean?
Yep, like the hospital staff's like they're prioritizing Bruce Wayne. Is
Right,
like, oh
right.
yeah, like, I'm not leaving until this family here gets out before me.
Like
I'm not
no,
getting a
no,
special
obviously
treatment.
no Conroy voice acting, but that just feels like a great Conroy moment.
Well, we know what the great Conroy moment is, though. That's great, but there's one other. It's close by to that. We'll circle back. We'll circle back. Anyway, so overall, our status quo has a lot of really interesting things to it. So again, Terry and Dana have broken up. The Dana's broken up with them, which again was a long time coming. We finally
I
kind of put
know,
them.
right? I feel like by season 3, it's kind of like, okay, we're kind of circling the drain here with this relationship.
So it made sense.
I feel like it's a good status quo to kind of like start the comic off on. Like, it's different enough from the show. It's something that probably should have happened on the actual show itself.
Exactly, but again, had they known might have had like if they had another season, perhaps, and if had they known like okay, maybe we give one more season, then we're closing the books, we would do stuff like that. Who knows?
I will say though, I think this story does an excellent job of kind of recontextualizing the relationship and making me root for these kids. And I'm a little bit off of my Terry Mack ship. A little
There
bit.
you, there
A
you
little
go.
bit.
Also, I mean, how didn't you feel awful for Dana being in these situations? It was such a harrowing scene where, again, with the scariness of Doug, even before he puts on the makeup, we have this build up scene where he's shaving his head to become, for the Joker look later on. His father's like telling him essentially, hey, you're out of prison. I don't want you affiliated with the Joker's gangs or anything. I want you to take your medication. He's just basically, again, not being like a tyrant here. He's just being like, look, if you're gonna stay under our roof, we want to make sure things are okay, and you want to make sure you're on your meds and everything. So it's
You know
pretty
what it kind of
reasonable.
reminds me of, Dragon?
What?
It kind of reminds me of like the brief period of time where the Pinkmans let Jesse back in.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit like
Reminds me
that.
a
Yeah,
lot of that. Yeah.
sure. Anyway, so then Doug again, just kind of like very nonchalant. It's so scary how nonchalant he is about it. Like do do do, and he basically uses the towel, and he basically fractures his father's skull. Which is and just poor Dana there, and he's just like, go, like he can basically kiss his sister goodbye, and he walks out of there. It's like, oh wow, good to see you, sis. And he just walks out the door, having like critically wounded his father.
Right, right.
And again, Mr. Ten, not a bad guy.
Yeah, just casual domestic violence.
Yeah. So let's see. Anyway, Anyway, yeah. So Wayne Enterprises. This is great though. So this is again Bruce Wayne potentially doing this because he knows there's not a lot of time. He's trying to make amends and he's trying to make sure Gotham's in good hands and like kind of taken care of if he's out the door. Where he basically is finally giving the GCP now he knows Barbara's there and kind of things are in good shape. He's going to give the GCP some bat tech essentially, some the Wayne Enterprise R&D stuff that feeds into the Batman stuff. And to oversee it, he's got Lucius Fox Jr. and Tim Drake.
Yep, yep.
This is a big deal. We're bringing Tim Drake back in the fold.
I really like how big of a deal it was for Terry to call Tim Drake later on, too.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that was something where it's like, oh, God, like, I don't fully trust him. I also don't want to upend the poor man's life. It's like there's like multiple different factors going against the decision, but at the same time, he knows he's basically the only man for the job.
And that's the thing, too. Like, a part of you has to read it that the wonderful thing about the end of Batman Beyond: Return of the Joker is that Bruce Wayne, he visits Tim in the hospital, and they have that great reconciliation. But it's not too much. It's not too less. It's just this whole. It's like
it's not like welcome back to the Bat family, Tim.
Yeah, it's just this moment of like hello old man. Again, that's kind of all you need. This is kind of I like just the impression that okay, Bruce is making an effort to make things right with Tim. Basically, he's giving like a big salary for basically a job where look, Tim, you don't really have to do anything. Just use your communication stuff just to make sure like the computers work. Like the promises he'll never have to step foot in the cave.
Right.
That's what Bruce says at least. And also, Lucius Jr., again, this is a callback to way back in season 1. Derek Powers fired him for the security guard, which was, so it was like a slight to Lucius Fox's legacy, where it's like, hey, we needed a place to put the guard, so we fired Lucius Fox Jr. So this is Bruce kind of making amends there now that he has his company back, post, Return of the Joker, so.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're doing kind of some neat stuff there. So I guess real quick, let's just fire through the side stuff then so we can focus on the main story.
I mean, I don't even really know what it has to do with the arc as a whole, though. But sure.
Well, no, I agree with you, but one of them does. One of the characters does appear in the arc. So I mean, Mad Stan, just to get him out of the way. So Mad Stan, basically. Mad Stan's in here for a couple of reasons. One, just to get the flavor of Batman Beyond. Let me put it to you this way. There are two reasons why we have all the side stuff, particularly
with Mad Stan, I guess we do have kind of like the, like, oh no, Dana's brother's missing, but also Mad Stan is on the loose. What is Terry going to do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the couple things. So Mad Stan, the main reason he's in the book is that Breyfogle, it was unclear. Sorry, Adam Beechin wanted Breyfogle to do the whole story because he hates the whole thing where you're reading a comic and then we change art styles randomly in the middle of the story. So the original plan was because it seemed like Breyfogle might not have been able to do the art for the whole story. It would have been okay. Maybe let's front load the stuff with like the Mad. We'll have the Mad Stan stuff here, and if in case we have another artist, we'll have him do like the side stuff, and then we'll have Breyfogle for the main 10,000 Clowns story. So at least the important story will be representing the art style we want to represent.
Right.
But Breyfogle was ultimately able to do the whole thing, so it was kind of an added runtime thing. It kind of worked in their favor, but also kind of against their favor in terms of splitting it up the way we do. Now we have extra stuff we don't need, but it's cool stuff. But it's not really critical to 10,000 Clowns.
I mean, I kind of feel like the Mad Stan stuff is it's at least tying into Terry, like like, oh no, what is he gonna do? He's kind of got. He's kind of being torn in different directions. The Joe Chill descendant stuff, I think, is a cool story. I honestly think it's a little bit more interesting of a story than the Mad Stan stuff, which by and large is just like you said, kind of to give Batman Beyond flavor to it. Kind of like because Mad Stan is a good kind of like I feel like it's fair to say Mad Stan is a standout original villain from Batman Beyond, so it's good to have him there.
He's the Rhino of the Batman Beyond.
Oh God, absolutely.
He's basically Rhino with grenades.
But remind me what the dude's first name is, Dragon, the Joe Chill guy.
Jake Chill.
Jake Chill, that's right. Yeah. I just thought it was a legitimately really interesting story. I love how he like comes from like the bottom layers of Gotham City and he works his
Hmm.
way up and then he goes even further down in his downfall. It's so I'm not gonna lie, I'd be interested to see what else they do with this guy in the comics moving forward. I thought it was a really good setup for him.
Yeah, so that's the thing. So the Jake Chill story is really interesting. So a few of the mandate, well, not a mandate, but kind of like the goals of which, if we're gonna have to reintroduce Batman Beyond, within kind of the story that they're telling for a third time, going into like the 10,000 Clown stories, like okay, we need to one, we want kind of to represent the show, which is why we have Mad Stan in there, and then we want to recap the origin, but in a natural way. So the way in which we do that is like we're gonna see it from the perspective of a different character. One could say an average Joe.
Oh God. But I mean, they don't even really spell out like I mean, I kind of feel like if it's supposed to be an origin story, I don't really think they do that good of a job because I mean, I don't know how many people who have never read a Batman comic even know who Joe Chill is.
Well, not that origin, Terry's origin, Tiki.
Oh, okay, I got it. Yeah, my bad. My
Like the
bad.
whole like the Warren McGinnis thing. That's
Duh. Duh.
yeah.
Okay. I should have been more fast on the uptake there. Okay.
The
Got it.
point being, the Jake Chill story is wonderfully self-contained. It's like one issue. It again was designed to kind of recap the Batman Beyond pilot episode.
Uh-huh.
And again, from an average Joe's perspective, one could say, and basically, it's the logic of it was kind of founded on the logic of well, Mister Fix was kind of an officious guy. You know, don't get me wrong, he was muscle, but still, he was kind of like the upper management muscle. So it would stand the reason that he might delegate being the trigger man on Warren McGinnis. Like he gave the order, he led the men there and everything. So he's definitely doing the dirty work. And again, this was like a retroactive thing too, because we always assume Mister Fix just like killed Warren McGinnis with his bare hands or something. But still, this is interesting though,
Common
and
misconception with mob bosses.
yeah, yeah,
They don't usually do the dirty work.
exactly. So there's an argument to be made that this does play, and this makes sense. So Jake Chill is like I believe the grandnephew of Joe Chill,
Hmm.
who basically he was the trigger man. He killed Warren McGinnis, but not gleefully, not like maliciously, not like greedily. Just basically, it was the fun fact: the best thing the DCAU tie-in comics did was Joe Chill, because there was Batman Adventures number 17, going way back. Like one of basically this was like essentially the last tie-in comic that they did really with Batman. It addressed Joe Chill and it was really good. Essentially, the idea was the original Joe Chill after he killed the Waynes, he basically he was like a young guy just trying to get money. It was like he's very much kind of like a mugger with a gun kind of thing. But then he found out who that over the years he felt a little guilty about it, and then he lived in fear, finding out that the Waynes, that Bruce Wayne, that kid, that random couple that he mugged ended up being the Wayne family, and that kid turned out to be this billionaire. He was always worried Bruce Wayne was out to get him.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
So it was a really interesting take on it. So the idea of like playing remorse on the killer of the Waynes, in this case the killer of Warren McGinnis as well, running and that having that kind of run in the Chill family, is a really interesting idea, I think.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
So here, just seeing the Norm
I guess also
Breyfogle.
just that rise and fall arc with him is really well done
Well,
too.
again, this gets in that world building I told you right from the beginning, where again we have like
Sure.
the tiers of like status in Neo Gotham, where you have like the escalator thing where you go up, and that's kind of like like Hamilton High is like in the middle somewhere.
Again, it very much gives me freaking Coruscant vibes.
Yeah,
Very much Coruscant vibes.
exactly.
Especially Coruscant is represented in Andor specifically.
It's funny. No, sure, I'll get you there, but
Mhm.
for with the Breyfogle art, the panel that always stuck out to me with this Jake Chill story was seeing Mister Fix sympathetic towards the guy for having to pull the trigger on Warren McGinnis. Like that was the thing that always like made my blood curdle. Like, oh wow, even Mister Fix feels bad for this guy. Just the idea that these guys are like hired like like secret security for Derek Powers. Like they're not really supposed to be killers, but they do have guns. It's like what if you had your security guys murder somebody? How does that guy feel?
Mhm.
So, like doing shady stuff's one thing, but committing murder, and he gets hazard pay for it and everything. And then when Batman eventually fights off, the whole Blight origin happens. This guy, he didn't put up a fight because he was feeling a little guilty over having to murder somebody. Anyway, so it's the big idea that Beecham's like working with through all of his Batman Beyond stuff, and you'll see when we get to the last episode how this our last episode period of Batman Beyond, how this kind of works, is that he read the Batman Beyond story as fundamentally being all about inevitability and destiny, and that's kind of what the Jake Chill kind of legacy factor kind of equates to, where it's the idea that this, the like tragedy just kind of finds our two Batmen, and in a really fascinating way, this vigilante character and Batman, they interact in this story briefly, but they have no idea the true significance they have in each other's lives, and they'll never know that.
Wait. I'm dumb. I'm fucking dumb, Dragon.
But
I did not get the connection that he was vigilante.
well, yeah, Tiki, he's vigilante, yeah.
Okay, wow, I'm really slow on the uptake there.
Yeah, so he was like wearing, so Derek Powers had like the security guys, and he was the quiet squad, the stormtrooper guys, way back from episode 1, and he was one of them. He killed Warren McGinnis, and he still kept the uniform, and he modified it to become vigilante.
Okay, I didn't quite put the pieces together on that in my head.
Okay, well, now that you know it, does it seem kind of interesting, or?
I mean, when you said like he pops up again later, I'm like, really? Where did I miss that?
No, yeah,
no, it's very interesting. Yeah, I love that whole idea of like they're in each other's lives, but they don't know how much they've impacted each other.
So it's just this really fascinating idea of redemption.
I mean, the thing is, when I think vigilante, I think the fucking Peacemaker version of vigilante, right? Like, I don't think like a guy who's like got a really, really haunted past. Granted, I don't know much about that version of vigilante. He was pretty much played as comic relief in Peacemaker, but I digress.
Okay, so just fun fact, they did have to factor that in when they were creating this character, because they used the same name, and they knew they used the same name, so they did have to carefully design him so he doesn't look like the Peacemaker vigilante.
Right.
But yeah, so it's a really fascinating idea, like this whole redemption vibe.
When he popped in, I almost kind of treated him like a Deadpool kind of figure, not like as a fourth wall breaker, but I didn't really take him that seriously. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, okay, here's a guy who doesn't really follow the rules, and he's kind of like a little bit of an anarchist, but he still wants to help. I don't know. I'm dumb. Anyways.
Okay, well, the point being, though, the redemptive angle is really interesting. Okay, so the guy who killed, essentially, basically, again, it's the whole like 89 thing. You created me, I created you sort of thing. The full circle.
Yeah, that's one of my least favorite parts of 89, but sure.
Well, I know. I'm just using it as an example with the old saying. The whole I'm just using the line. Really, I'm not saying it's exactly that, but it's the whole idea.
I just think the Joker Batman dynamic is so interesting that you don't need that.
Well, it is, but even if you take that off of it, just the whole thing of like Batman, creating his villains and stuff, like that looking at just in that sense alone, still, just the idea that Batman has kind of steered this guy on the right path, but this guy created the need for this Batman in the first place by killing his father. So it's really it's a heady idea how that works. That this guy is on a redemptive path after doing something so terrible.
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay, so the last thing we should get to, but then we'll get into the main story. Max. So Max and Undercloud. So this is all mostly a setup arc for something that happens after 10,000 Clowns. So that was kind of the whole digital comics thing at play there, where it's basically, it's like, what if we saw what Max was up to in the scenes we did not see in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker? That's kind of the gimmick here of like, okay, what's Max doing during all this?
Well, Maxine's big day out, essentially.
So Max does go on to do some cool stuff here, but again, not remotely in this story. We're just showing that. Okay,
I think that the Max stuff in this story is kind of the weak point. I'm not going to lie.
But again, it's not really. Yes, it's a weak point only because it doesn't feed into the main narrative, but just as for the next story, it's like, okay, we gave Max stuff to do, and it's cool stuff. Basically, she's I'm just going to tell
Well,
you.
you know what? I mean, going through practically 2 seasons of the cartoon where it's like Max is getting like the lion's share of the screen time from the female perspective and Dana's like really pushed to the sidelines. I think it's appropriate. I think it's appropriate that we give Dana the spotlight and have Max on kind of some weird side mission that doesn't really connect.
I mean, the benefit is that, okay, at least we acknowledge what she's doing here versus just not having her at all in Return of the Joker. I think that's kind of like that was the balance that we struck there. Okay, at least we're showing she's doing something.
Mm-hmm.
And we've taken her out of the equation. Here's the thing, too. If we had Max in the story, Tiki, because if she doesn't get captured by the hacker collective, the Undercloud guys, she would have gone to the Batcave, which we can't have without, otherwise that's the main reason we have to address her and see, okay, so she's not in this story.
Right.
So basically, long story short, she's basically going undercover in this hacker collective to try and kind of stop a big plot to do a lot of mischief in the arc that comes after this. Anyway, Chicken is not as strong as 10,000 Clowns, but I'm just telling you that's essentially what she goes on to do. It's like a whole Metal Men plot with Alloy. It's a lot of comics jargon.
No, anyway. I got the sense that it was definitely some setup for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so to our main story here. So Bruce Wayne, he's experiencing liver failure, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, specifically from mostly a lot of it is from the painkillers that he's been taking essentially just to get by day to day, which is like, that's definitely a harrowing kind of idea in its own right that you never really think about when it comes to Batman, just kind of like day to day toll that it takes on you.
So Adam Beecham's one of his biggest things that he's always wanted to explore, the story gave him the opportunity to in a big way, is that heroes don't think about the longevity of like where they're going to be years from now in terms of like physically, like after all the damage and hits that they take.
Sure.
So this is right. This is the acknowledgement of it. Like from taking all the painkillers, there's always that warning of liver damage. So if you're Batman, you're taking.
Dragon, I got to tell you, man, as someone who suffers from pretty chronic migraines, I've taken a lot of painkillers in my day. I'm low-key kind of scared now. I'm not gonna lie. This definitely kind of served a little bit of a cautionary tale in a way in regards to that.
Well, are you taking it daily?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, wait.
Since I was in high school.
Well, have you read the label? Because not all of them say liver damage.
My brand of choice is Excedrin. Let me see. I'll get the bottle right here. Blah 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 blah. I don't know. I don't want to waste time.
Okay. The point being, so this is like a realistic kind of like aftermath. Years like at age 80, he's been dealing with this. For pretty much 50 years of his life. Probably essentially Batman kind of at his peak 30. Age 30 onward, he's been kind of like probably been putting his body through a meat grinder.
Right.
And so and there's also kind of a line too where basically the Wayne Powers kind of blocked him from looking into kind of using all the R&D to potentially find like kind of a way around some of this, around some of the liver, basically trying to clone a new liver.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so apparently he's been dealing with this pre-Rebirth since before he met Terry. So this is a heady idea too, that Bruce Wayne knows that he's one of the reasons he's been grumpy since Batman Rebirth is that he knows that eventually the liver is going to get him.
Right.
Which it's, and again, all the ambiguity of Bruce Wayne is he doing things because he's kind of grown after the experience of Return of the Joker with Tim Drake, or is he doing it because he's trying to kind of like essentially kind of settle things up with people before the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like how much of it is progress versus how much of it is just kind of like ending the legacy.
Sure.
All right, let's see. So, so Terry's very upset by this. That Bruce kept the secret from the whole time, and they've gotten really close. At least Terry thinks they have, and this is it's a blow to find out your mentor has been lying, has been kind of keeping this from you, and someone you care about might be going away.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we had like the really, we saw like Bruce Wayne's nightmare that he has like on a daily basis.
Oh my god, that was, like forget about the painkillers stuff, man. Like that. Oh, dreams are a tricky thing for me, and I'm lucky that I don't suffer from like nightly reoccurring nightmares like that. But if I did, man, I can't imagine the hell it would be. So yeah.
So the idea that
they give us just enough of a taste of that to have it be like, okay, yeah, that is fucked up. Like, we don't need to know much more than the few panels we're actually given of it.
And again, fundamentally, Bruce Wayne's fears losing the new Bat family that he's cultivated for himself, and like over the years, just like it's basically his worst nightmare is death in the family. It's basically it's pulling Robin it's pulling Jason Todd from the wreckage, and then extend to every other member of the Bat family, including Terry. So as time has gone on, it's like the same nightmare, but there are more bodies. Oh, it's creepy. All right, let's see. So, Joker King properly here. So, I love that we gave him like kind of a Bob the Goon-esque kind of
Yes,
contemporary.
yes, he's great.
Yeah, Pally is his name. So we
That's
have
a great
Pally,
name
who's
for
dressed.
a goon character, especially.
Plus, I love that his name is Pally, and the idea is he's dressed like Pagliacci. So he's it's kind of like Pagliacci, if you will.
Is Pagliacci the sad clown?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
Pagliacci,
good. All right.
like Harold from the
Of
opera.
Of course. That's how I know that reference. Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Oh God.
But doctor, I am Pagliacci. Anyway, yeah. So Joker King. So I love these cemetery scenes too, which by the way was a conscious choice that Adam Beecham kind of acknowledged, like the comic book trope of like, why are all the Batman villains always hanging out in the city if they're plotting against Batman? Like, he's going to patrol the city. Why don't they go outside the city a little bit?
Uh-huh.
That's why we have kind of these really well staged kind of scenes there. Anyway, so we get the philosophy, and this is the thing we got to. So basically, Doug Tan's philosophy as Joker King is that Joker, like all the other Jokers, they worship Joker, and they kind of like they don the makeup and everything because they like the freedom and the anti-establishment kind of like in quotes anarchy that he represented, but more like the Hot Topic generation. Like we thought he dressed cool and he got away with whatever he wanted. He was kind of funny and kind of dangerous. Basically, they're the Joker fanboys, but in kind of like, oh man, you ruined it for everyone kind of way. That's kind of that's the classic Jokers. Now Doug's perspective of it.
Basically, it's like the people that took Fight Club way too seriously and didn't view Fight Club as the social satire that it clearly is.
Yeah, we're basically...
No, Tyler Durden was right, man! Doug essentially is Tyler Durden, Dragon. He really is.
I mean, pretty much, But yeah, essentially Doug's perspective is that, Joker never, is that the original Joker never fully got the joke that he was that he was party to with the whole like the never ending dance with Batman. Essentially, it was all for nothing. It was all nihilism. That's essentially what Doug's point is, that the real joke of everything is it all amounts to nothing. So the cycle of nothing, which again is the interesting read on the Batman Joker dynamic. That again, if they keep canceling each other out and it goes on forever, what's the point? It's not a yin yang sign. It's actually a big in silhouette. It's a big circle. It's a big nothing. It's a big zero, man. Anyway, so his plan twisted. It's basically. Again, it's for the most part, with one small exception, it is a real world scary plot that you could absolutely see happening in real life, and that's what's scary about it. Is basically what he's done is at the cemetery he's gathered 10,000 Jokers from all across different cities, and they've all converged here thanks to his prison connects and everything. He's gotten all these Jokers from all over in the cemetery gathered, and he's misted them with like a hypnotic chemical to make them basically more susceptible to it, which they're already kind of susceptible to him, but now to the point where they won't care about their own lives. So that's the one gimme of like, okay, if there's a hypnotic chemical. But aside from that, take these dim teens who do not fully grasp, the point, the whole like philosophy of the Joker, like Joker's ideology. They went for the aesthetic. They never thought about, yeah, Joker's willing to die for the joke. They never fully banked on that part of it. Like, we just want to scare people with clown makeup. We're insane clown posse kind of generation.
Basically, yes. They're just a bunch of juggalos, Dragon. They're harmless. They mean no harm. They just.
Ultimately, yeah, they're street punks with a clown.
God.
So that's the thing. They've unwittingly become human bombs to die for the Joker's cause.
Which again, is for just again, it's such an incredibly Tyler Durden-esque idea.
Yep. And again, look, I don't want to dwell on it, but again, by the time this book had come out, I don't know what month it started, but again, you had some stuff happening, which was kind of tantamount to this sort of fear,
What year
which,
was this?
well, it started in 2012. I don't know what month though.
Okay, I mean, what was going on in 2012 specifically?
Well, Tiki, 2012, Batman,
Oh shit. Oh, yeah,
So
right.
that's
Oh
the
man.
thing. I don't know how I think it was before that, but
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah, no. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, that moment was kind of I mean, whether it was intentional or coincidence or whatever, that is kind of
Yeah.
a dark parallel to draw there because that moment really was like not just for Batman, but just in general, like kind of like a cautionary tale of like, okay, like people can take this fandom shit way, way too far, obviously.
Which again
Yeah.
was kind of a fun demonstration of like the fun, lighthearted Joker's idea taken to the nth degree in this story here. Like, okay, what if we took kind of like, we're kind of following, we're obsessing over like the bad people and the whole thing of like Batman kind of lost the war in the long run with like his legacy versus Joker's legacy in Gotham. And what is that? What are the horrifying implications of that? Like, if someone took it really seriously and really just kind of like took the Joker's meaning really off the reservation, like no showmanship, all terrible, murder.
Hmm, hmm.
To do this. So yeah, basically he basically in one night he creates this complete chaos in Gotham, like 91 bombings and counting of like these suicide bomber, like Joker's. The Justice League Unlimited, they're off world, so they can't help. Bruce Wayne's in the hospital because of the liver thing. So Terry, he's in a bind. He is desperate for help. He's all alone. He's calling Tim Drake back into the Batcave to run point and try and like basically cure him of the whole the hypnotic chemical stuff. And yeah, we call in the cavalry. So we get Catwoman Beyond, who essentially is not Selena Kyle. It's basically she's the descendant of a deep cut Batman villain who can. I think the character was Film Freak, but I could be wrong. There was a character who could duplicate himself, or at least she has technology that I think she either is a meta who can duplicate or she uses technology. I think she's just a meta. I think it's like a natural ability, like
Oh,
duplicate from
really?
Invincible. I think
Uh,
so, but I'd have to
yeah,
check. I think there's like
honestly,
a
to me, like as far as like being a Batman Beyond character, I definitely prefer it to be a technology based thing.
again, I'm not 100%. I think there was a line in Hush where she said she got it from her father who could do this. That's what I think happened, but I don't think it was never really. We don't really see a lot of this Catwoman Beyond character beyond the Hush story and this story, so I don't know if it ever really said like how she can do this.
Hmm.
Tika, I looked, I tried finding out like if I was like, because it had been a while since I read this story and I saw Catwoman Beyond. I forgot like, wait a minute, are we just drawing her really fast or can she actually duplicate? So she actually is duplicating. I just don't know how
Right,
she's
right, right.
duplicating specifically. Anyway, then we had a vigilante who we now have established Tiki. Okay, Jake Chill. He's
Okay, okay,
vigilante.
give me I deserve a little bit more credit here than the DG thing, god damn it. Don't
Tiki,
patronize the dragon.
Tiki, at the end of the Jake Chill story, we saw the armor and it had Jay Chill on like as a name tag on the armor.
Yeah, right, but it was a long time before he reappeared and I forgot what the armor looked like. I don't you know I'm bad at details like that.
Okay, but
I'm not a
anyway,
visual learner, Dragon. I don't know what to tell you.
you're right, but we do have good old DG. Now this one, again, I'm going to remind you, we have DG in the story. Now, when he showed up, I was really worried. Okay, Tiki's not gonna know who DG is here, so I should probably I should baby step it with him. Okay, so that's Dick Grayson.
I
He
love the
lost an
design.
eye.
I love the eye patch. I think it's really cool that he's obviously been through some shit, but we don't really know what.
Do you want me to? You want me to tell you what happened to him?
Uh, Specifically the eye patch. I'm curious about the eye patch.
Yeah, so it's really haunting what happened to him. And in the Hush Beyond stories where we reintroduced him, by the way. Again, this is where we're kind of doing the stuff we didn't see in Batman Beyond, which include bringing back a few of the Batman villains, but also explaining the biggest question everyone wanted to know. after Return of the Joker came out was, we give Nightwing 2 lines. What the heck happened to him? We have all the other Bat family. Where's Nightwing?
Right,
So
right,
the
right.
answer was this. Nightwing in that story tells Terry what happened. He shows him the Nightwing costume. It was riddled with bullets. So essentially, what happened was Joker kidnapped Alfred. Batman and Nightwing were in pursuit. Like Nightwing helped out because it was Alfred, and basically it's very much a nod to the Incredibles, where he tells, hey, Terry, you know why he lost the cape, don't you? Sorry, fundamentally, it's like the reason Batman lost the cape over the years was maybe a little bit of guilt over what happened here, where basically he wears the cape to strike fear into the hearts of criminals. Well, that's one of the reasons, but the other reason's a tactical thing. You wear the cape to avoid getting shot. Like it masked all the different places of the body. Someone could shoot you, right?
Sure, sure,
So
yeah.
what happened was Bruce Wayne, being
That's
very focused on Alfred, Nightwing right behind him, Joker had armor-piercing bullets in a gun, shot tried to riddle Batman with bullets, ended up getting Nightwing through the cape. And basically Batman stabilized him and he ran off, and basically Nightwing, he lost the eye, and and we kind of acknowledge it a little bit in the story in the climax. He has a bullet near his spine, so that's why he kind of retired from the Cape Crusading. He had like a bullet near his spine, so he can walk, but it's like a danger there. And it's a lot of constant pain and everything. So.
Okay, interesting.
Along with Nightwing's other issues, but I'm just saying, like, that was like that was the last straw, kind of like where physically I don't think I'm really up for it, and Bruce, he didn't really apologize for it. He just kind of said, "Here's the suit, come back to work." That's like, it's kind of cold to Bruce Wayne. Anyway, so yeah, but Dick Grayson, it's really cool to see him though. He's back in the fray. He kind of helps out at the end. He gets to play Robin one last time in the climax, helping Batman defeat the bad guy. It's pretty nice. Also, speaking of that, Tim Drake, he gets to save Gotham one last time as well from behind the computer, which is kind of nice and like a redemption for that character. Sure. Yeah. So I guess just getting the only thing that's really left to talk about is the hospital and the big fight. So the hospital third act, it's really intimidating. We have during all this chaos, like Joker King's big plan is like he's already succeeded. He's gotten what he's wanted. The only thing he has left is he wants to kill his father, but it's kind of like a final screw you to his family. Just of like, you guys did this to me, I'm gonna kill him, and someone's there to prevent him from doing that. Tiki. It's Bruce Wayne.
Oh yeah.
And we have this amazing moment here. This is the Great Conroy moment in
absolutely, no doubt. Yeah.
So we have an ailing Bruce Wayne who's on his last legs. He's in the hospital gown and everything with like, in lieu of the cane, he's got like the little IV thing. And he's like, "Thank you, God." He shows up there, and we have this. We had a nod to Frank Miller a lot throughout this, where Frank Miller famously had the whole "this would be a good death, but not good enough" runner through Dark Knight Returns, and like dying of liver failure, it's a stupid death. So now we had like Bruce Wayne's version of a good death is like he shows up there in the Great Conroy line is like, "If I'm going out, I'm taking one of you with me." He gets to fight a representation of the Joker one last time, and he's wailing on him, and he's doing pretty good until again the old age and the liver failure kind of gets him. He gave his all, but he couldn't save him, and in his last moments there, he's contacting Terry. And I love how harrowing that is too. You don't think he's going to make it.
I'm not gonna lie. I pretty much figured we weren't gonna kill off Bruce Wayne, but
not like that. Oh, I mean, not gonna make like whatever he's trying to message Terry and everything to tell him to get to the hospital and everything, that kind of thing. But yeah,
I mean, obviously I didn't know for sure, but I mean, if I were a Benny man, I'd be like, all right, there's no way they're really gonna kill off Terry, is there? Or I'm sorry, Bruce.
I mean, it is an old Batman, though. At some point, he's got to go, though, Tiki. That's the heady thing,
Yeah, I know, but I feel like it's just a sacred cow character where it's like you'd have to make a really big event out of killing him off. I feel like you wouldn't want to kill him off in a comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what's funny, though? Like, Bruce Timm always was asked, like, are you going to kill him off? And Batman says, "I will never kill off Bruce Wayne." That was like what he said. I'm not going to be the guy to kill off Bruce Wayne.
Right. I feel like an animated movie, like a Spider-Verse style animated movie, would probably be like the proper place to pull the trigger on something like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of weird to say we can't come off in a comic because, well, I mean, here's the thing: there's an impermanence the
Well, no,
comics.
I just say that in regards to like, obviously comics are big for the fandom, but it's not necessarily going to be like a big cultural event. You know what I mean?
No, I get you. Honestly, to you, I think it boils down to is that comics death is always impermanent, but in media, though, it has a bigger impact. Like
I
it
mean,
feels like
look at Tony Stark, for example. Robert Downey Jr. is coming back, but we're still not getting that version of Tony Stark back.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So then we said the point being, Bruce Wayne's last months, he tells Terry that Dana's in trouble at the hospital. Awesome moment. Batman just like crashes through the glass that tackled the Joker King, and they get into a knuckles down, drag out fight. Which again, per
I
all the
love how
stuff.
as soon as Batman name drops Dana, it's like I pretty much had a feeling like, okay, I kind of know that Dana's probably going to put the pieces together on that at this point.
Oh yeah,
That was a good moment.
So this is really interesting. Where Joker King, he has this fight with Batman, and again, he's not overpowered. He he doesn't have superhuman strength or anything, but he's just really smart in terms of brawling. Where he
Absolutely.
knows he can again. This is also kind of the Joker's fighting in the Dark Knight, where when he's fighting, the Christian Bale Batman in the end of the Dark Knight, he's like overwhelming him with like body blows with like the lead pipe as much as he can, which is kind of a similar thing here, right? Kind of a construction, like a part of the hospital's under construction.
Just like a dirty sort of like whatever works kind of mentality to it.
Yeah, where it's basically okay. I'm going to I'm going to discombobulate him until I get the upper hand. And the best part about all of this too is that the sickest part of Joker King's plot is that he knows Batman's going to win. He knows he's going to win. He knows that he's not going to walk away from this. He knows that I'm either going to go to prison.
At the same time, I think there's a legitimate argument to be made here. I'm actually curious what your perspective is about it. Does he actually win, quote unquote, given the body count here? I mean, it's kind of one of those like Dark Knight style. Like, Batman doesn't really win at the end of the Dark Knight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I kind of view it the same way here, almost even more so. Because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, this is an event that is going to leave a gaping scar on Gotham City for the rest of its existence. I mean, this is essentially Gotham City's 9/11.
Agreed. Yeah, no, that's the thing. I'm with you there, and that there are a lot of parallels to the Dark Knight in this climax. I felt because one, just the environment in which we have the final battle, the way in which we kind of dangle him off the side, and the fact that again, it's the whole like the Joker cannot win, like the speech at the end of the Dark Knight here, which the last line of this whole book is like him. I love again the way Brave is always well known for drawing expressions on the characters. So there's a lot of humanity conveyed within the static comic book kind of like artwork, where it's like you can see the doubt on Terry's face when he says he didn't win. Like there's hesitation, he didn't win.
Sure.
Which again it speaks volumes here, where he's like Doug is convinced like, hey, I'm going to be stopped at some way, shape, or form. I'm going to be stopped. I'm going to take as many people out as I can before that happens. Which again is kind of how the original Joker would feel, but would kind of think. But he would do a lot more kind of panache, and he would a lot more showmanship.
Mm-hmm.
Versus this is like the all business version of a Joker, which is scary. Well, also, it's it's really scary. Okay, so again, he's just doing all this to have a good time at this point, figuring like Batman's probably gonna get a second win, but I'm gonna take a shot at killing him. He is hanging him, basically doing a hangman's noose on Batman, dangling for all of Gotham to see. And while he's doing it, the first time he laughs and smiles in the whole story is when he's like, there's that panel when he's like grabbing Batman by the hangman's noose. Which is crazy, and that's the thing. It's kind of a less is more thing. This. By the way, what do you think of the Joker King's design?
Oh, I love it. I really do. I think just the short hair, the kind of like it's almost kind of like a British like hooligan gang member or something. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's
it's
kind of the vibe I get from it.
the punk vibe, yeah.
Right, yeah,
But I
yeah.
mean, here I love like the detail. He has like the crown like tattooed or painted on his forehead. Like he's like,
Mhm,
if you
mhm.
look there, and the LOL on the
LOL, yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
yeah. But yeah, that's the thing. The fact that this guy's just overpowering Terry. Again, Terry, we've established. I mean, Terry's a good brawler himself, but he's no Batman in terms of an expert fighter. So this is an even. Again, it's kind of Terry versus the more prison. But again, that's a juvie ready guy versus a prison ready guy. Like fighting. It's a prison fight versus a juvie fight to an extent.
Sure.
And yeah, he's Terry's getting shot in the head. The suit's saving his life, but it's discombobulating. I mean, and the whole point of this climax is like Terry is getting a taste of like Batman, what Batman went through at his worst times on the job, and is kind of getting perspective on like what this lifestyle entails now that he's past like avenging his father's murder. Like if you stay on with this post Return of the Joker, this is the kind of stuff you're going to have to face, and is it worth it?
Yeah, and I think it does a really good job. I mean, like obviously I knew Terry wasn't going to die, but I do think like it did a really good job like elevating the stakes. I think like the last like 5 issues, or let's say the last 4 issues, then we obviously have issue 20 as the epilogue. So let's say like issues like 15 to 19, let's roughly around there. There's such a good escalation of tension and danger, and just everything just feels like it's cataclysmic.
Oh yeah.
Really good pacing.
I mean, Gotham's literally on fire behind them. Yeah, just great, a lot of great imagery. Again, we whole like while he's beating him up, he's like speechifying, basically laying out the whole nihilistic cycle of Batman, of basically why Batman has like this whole futile mission. Like, how many people, like innocent bystanders, have gotten caught in the crossfire of all the times you've saved people? Like, oh yeah, that's
which is probably a legit point.
I mean, it is. That's the thing.
That's the scary thing about this dude in general, is that he does make some good points, and that's the scary that was the scary thing about Ledger's Joker.
And it's really interesting that Dana did help save the day in the end there, where Dana kind of goes up there. She gets taken hostage, but not helpless. She is not helpless when taken hostage.
That was a big hell yeah moment. But no, I love like just the sick satisfaction that Doug has when he sees her, and he's like, "Oh, joy of joy! It's my lucky day. I get to look my sweet sister in the eyes as I murder her."
God, he's such a sick puppy.
Just a sicko, yeah.
Yeah, but I can't kill the old man, but I'll settle for any blood.
He's treating Dana like being able to kill Dana as if it's like a fucking Christmas present or something.
Well, that's the thing. It's just literally the guys. It's kind of tantamount to Joker in Dark Knight Returns, where Joker's like he is the way, like J. Oliver, the director of the animated movie, when they did it, like the way he described Joker was, he was he's basically like a junkie or someone who's been like starved of murder for decades, where basically he's on a murder binge. Like Joker's like, again, he's like instinctively killing anyone who's in his sights because he's not killed anyone for so long.
Right.
And in this case, it's like this guy knows, like, I gotta the buffet of murder is gonna close soon. I gotta stuff all the rolls in my pocket.
Oh God.
I gotta get those rolls. I mean,
oh man.
I'm on a roll, so I better stuff them in all the extra pockets, like the little baggy line pockets.
There's a visual for you, just Joker like shoving buffet rolls in like an oversized clown purse or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh man.
Anyway, yeah. So, joking, the way he falls too is like again. This I loved how karmic this was. He fractured his father's skull and put him on like practically death's door, and now that's what killed him off. He basically he banged his head so hard that killed him. He died with a smile. And again, just that Batman comforting Dana, and then here's the thing. If you read the trade, I would say Batman did not win. Okay, if you just end it there, Batman didn't win.
Right.
Had the epilogue, however, I would say I think it comes around to.
I feel like the epilogue is a personal victory for Terry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a victory for Batman, though. Again, I mean, the shit that goes down here, for as tragic as the fall of Harvey Dent is, this is just like on an entirely different scale from the Dark Knight, So if we consider the Dark Knight to be a loss for Batman, I think we have to consider this to at least be a partial loss.
Well, let me phrase it to you like this, T, and I don't know the answer to this. I'm just going to ask you and see where.
No, I think it's a really interesting moral question, though. Yeah.
Like the moral question to me, I was thinking about it now would be if Joker King's whole point is nihilism, it all is meaningless. It's nothingless. It amounts to nothing. Nothing we do matters.
The fucking fairy scenario.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I would argue that if we look at kind of the crux of Batman Beyond, in which it's kind of like the whole, ultimately it's the reconstruction of the Bat family that was very much completely broken from the start of the show to by the point of the Return of the Joker, or ideally here, where everyone's kind of back in the story now. When the chips were down, when the Joker, kind of Joker incarnate kind of came back and was bombing the heck out of the city, everyone who said, we're done or we're not really coming together officially, we're not supposed to be together, like they all. With the original Batman,
I like how many people in Gotham City would actually know that. Not many, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Though.
I'm just saying, in some sense, I think it's a victory. But you're right.
At the very least, it is a fucking devastating loss for Gotham City.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying, in a sense of like when the original Batman was very much down for the count in the hospital and everything, like all the people whose lives that he touched, he kind of showed the way over the years. They did come together and they did put an end to it. They did kind of like work together to save the city, even though, again, all the damage and trauma is there, which ultimately is what Batman Beyond's all about. Where like these characters have been through a lot. They've been through a war on crime, and war has casualties and traumas and damage and everything. Like we kind of imply, we don't really dwell on it, but we imply that maybe killing Joke did happen. Maybe Barbara was shot, and then eventually she healed like she did in the comics. So, there's like a little throwaway line that, the legs still hurt. And says, no, not really. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, stuff like that. Point being, a lot of stuff's happened. At the end of the day, they all came together, and then we kind of put a little bit of a, it's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, mind you, but it's a Band-Aid. Dana, she figured out that Terry was Batman, do the whole like Batman calling her Dana thing, and also all the little signs. She put the pieces together, and she visits Terry and Bruce. And Bruce okays it. Bruce owns up to it. He says, it's like that.
I love how there's no pushback from him.
This was really great, too. The fact that Bruce, for so long in the animated series, he would have never okayed Dana. But at this point, I would like to think, post Return of the Joker, after he's seen everything that's happened. I know I keep saying Return of the Joker, but there's obviously that was a high point in Batman Beyond. It's very important with the arcs, and one could argue it's kind of like a logical conclusion overall for that story.
It's kind of like the fucking SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Yeah.
Beyond Universe, which is a weird comparison, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean in terms of like it's the way to wrap up the show, in which again we patch things up between Bruce and the Bat family. That's kind of important.
I'm glad that you actually get that reference.
No, I absolutely get that reference. I know, because again, it's the whole Krusty Krab 2 thing.
Sure.
We never acknowledge it anywhere else, so that has to be
right.
So the point being is that, with that in mind, that's where Bruce, after that point in the story, would have all the growth logically, where it's like, okay, he's gotten really close with Terry. He trusts this kid and he respects him. And I like to think that he's been given perspective where, okay, you know what? Why keep it from her? I want Terry to be happy. I want him to have a better experience.
It's like the man is lucky that he did not cause these two kids to break up entirely. Well, I mean, he did.
Well, yeah,
he did.
That's the thing, Tiki.
Right.
But that's the thing. Just the fact that he wants Terry to have a happier existence as a Batman, which kind of goes a long way. So him like doing that is, I think it.
What I really love about this is I really love on Dana's end how, she spent pretty much the whole show pretty much like bitching about like, oh, Bruce Wayne, he's got you doing this and this and this and this. Oh, Bruce Wayne. But then the minute that it counts, the minute that Bruce Wayne steps up, like the dude might as well be Dana's biological grandfather.
Sure.
What I mean? Like that's how much she. Like, I mean, I legitimately think there's like some love there for him after that.
Well, yeah. Again, he took up for her family, and then he defended her against her psychotic brother when it counted. So he was there for the Tan family in every way it counted.
Mm.
And you know what? And then we pay it off in a really in a bittersweet way. I guess not only bittersweet but a haunting way. I love now this next idea. Tiki, in full honesty, I really wanted you to read the epilogue for the two reasons. One being the whole Dana thing, given how we've kind of talked about Dana throughout the course of the show. But two, because of this really eerie twist that Bruce Wayne, being the world's greatest detective, he deduces he was on a transplant list and probably at the top of the transplant list, and basically Mr. Wayne, we're going to rush you into surgery. We got the we have the replacement liver for it, and he put it together. That's from Doug Tan, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that idea too. Absolutely, it's just kind of that haunting sort of like a part of a Joker will always be a part of Bruce Wayne.
God, it's so such a
I'm going to use
good
this
and
quote
twisted.
100% unironically, Dragon. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
It is very fitting. And you know what? I mean, recently for the anniversary for the whole Arkhamversary thing we've been doing, especially for the Arkham City, which we just talked about.
Mm.
My favorite idea in that game. This is before this story came out, obviously, but only by a year, honestly, though. So it's kind of interesting how that worked out. But my favorite moment in the entire Arkham City game is when we reveal that Joker, basically poisoned Batman's blood with his tainted blood.
Oh yeah, right.
That's my favorite scene between them in that game. It's my favorite cinematic. It's my favorite story idea. I just love everything about that. It's the fact that we've linked them like that. So this is kind of the next stage of that idea here. We've kind of more literalized it. Like, oh god, he always Batman has to owe his existence, and he's living on because of the Joker in some sense.
You know what's fucked up is that it's not the actual Joker, but in some ways, the dude might be even worse than the actual Joker.
Well, I mean, the bigger twist is I remember
At
the
least as
Joker.
far as body count goes.
Well, even the twist the knife even further, my friend. It's the fact that the Jokers are a monument to Batman's failure. Remember, the whole thing of like the Jokers are the fact that again they've outlived Batman's legacy.
Sure.
So that's like the fact
Yeah.
it's like a reminder of like because you failed, the Joker's
There's not a
around.
bunch of vigilantes in hockey pads.
Yeah, just DG with an eye patch.
I'm sorry.
Yep, in which he eventually wears a sweater that says, DG, my name's Dick Grayson.
Right.
It's like Daredevil in the comics. He had that sweater that says, "I'm not Daredevil."
Oh Jesus.
So it'd be like, I'm Dick Grayson. Pleased to meet you.
All right.
Anyway, so yeah, that's so we end with Terry and Dana in a good place. He's kind of.
And I also just say I really like the brief flashbacks we get to like the first time Terry and Dana meet, connecting it to the rave of it all. That's a good kind of full circle sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And yeah, that's it. And I appreciate you folks for sticking with us to us. I'm sure, if any of you did, or at least retroactively did. I know this one was a bit of a gamble, but we kind of felt like if we're ever going to talk about it, it would have been now.
No, I'm glad we did, especially if there's any elements of this that bleed over into the epilogue we're going to talk about. Yeah, so. Okay, so thanks to Little Blue and Koki S in the comments. Little Blue's pointing out this isn't the first time an opening has gone wrong. Yeah, I know, Little Blue, but like I like it was the penultimate episode, and I flubbed that really bad, so I feel bad anyways.
Yep.
All right, Dragon, take us out one last time.
Terry McGinnis finished as Batman. Secrets revealed. The Great Conroy's finest moment.
Ooh.
Can Terry find the answers he seeks from an aged Amanda Waller? Will his black and white visions come to pass? Tune in next time to find out. Same animated bat time, same animated bat place.
On the final visit to Batcave Beyond with Epilogue. Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?
Belly.
Sure, it's probably cut off by now. Oh my god. This happened last night too. What? Oh dear God. Dragon, we're still hold on. Having trouble I'm sorry, folks. We're trying to end this. We're done. It's over. Go home. Dragon, I swear to God, it's not letting me end. It's saying like, oh, we're having trouble